Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back with Hordes and Farrow Commandos from the Minions faction. Olive Skin 09221. So the Farrow are a race of warthog men from the Iron Kingdoms. Their society exclusively revolves around raiding for whatever they need from other races. And under the command of Lord Carver, bringer of most massive destruction, Esquire III, they have gone from a sort of fringe group to a much more credible threat, and as he and other warlords inspired or subdued, or what's the word I'm looking for, coerced by him, begin to carve out their own Pharaoh nation. The Commandos, a fairly new addition to the ranks, use kukris and hand grenades of Pharaoh manufacture, which means functional but unreliable in a lot of ways. And they also have the very useful ambush rule, letting them deploy after the game starts. This is a full 10-man squad, so we'll be just doing one on camera effectively and swapping between models to show as much as possible. And to thrive in Pharaoh society, one has to constantly assert its dominance and rank over its lessers. And Pharaoh that show even a moment of weakness can quickly find themselves tumbling down the social hierarchy, if they even survive their overthrow, which makes female Pharaoh very rare in the ranks of the warlords, but Helga the Conqueror is among them, as is Agatha, Queen of Carnage. Okay, and that's mostly because of the whole childbirthing and rearing thing. But, okay. That's good. Apply that to the rest and move on when it's dry. Okay. Chaotic red. Gonna get the insides of the mouths, tongue, throat, etc. I think this Pharaoh's wearing a shirt. I might have to adjust this a bit. That's okay. It happens. And I'm using just enough water to thin the paint. So I should probably mention both now and at the end of the video, after I finish this one, I'm taking a little break and doing some things I'm not going to record, so it might be up to a week before I upload again, just a brief heads up. Okay, apply that to the rest and move on. Okay, dark skin 09041. While the mouths are drying, I can do the pelts, the manes, shaggier hair. This is a nice rich brown color. That, yeah. But kind of getting back to Helga the Conqueror and the role of female Pharaoh in society. She was propositioned by Lord Carver to start a dynasty with him for his perceived Pharaoh empire. But while there would be many, many advantages to being Carver's mate, she is more concerned about maintaining her position in Pharaoh society, wondering how she could be Carver's mate and raise and birth his offspring while still maintaining her position as a warlord. There's also a certain entertaining recklessness to the Farrow as well. Okay. Which I suppose makes them an awful lot like the pigs from the Muppet Show. Alright, apply that to the rest, and then I think I'm going to let that dry for a bit before I move on. Still have the camera fight me on focus. Okay, this thing going right. Dark Elf Skin 09164. Gonna get some leather here. Straps like loincloths, etc. Going for a fairly subdued color scheme to not contrast, but fit with the overall commando look. The leader here will have a little more color than his subordinates, but for now I'm just going to do kind of the base level of this. It's also the only model in the unit that seems to be wearing a shirt. So I'm getting the shirt, the loincloth, and some of the straps. And while it worked pretty loosely on the first two coats, now I'm getting much more precise and controlled. I think that's good enough for him. Apply to the rest and move on. Next, Yellow Bone 09143. Gonna get some tusks. And with these base coats, I'm using just enough water to thin the paint. So I'm keeping my brush moist but not overly wet. Okay. A little more on the backside here. Apply to the rest and move on. Alright. Taking Chaotic Red again. Going to go over a few details on the leader model. So this kit also builds Farrow Brigands, which I've done previously, and adding a little more color to the leader model because I was less than impressed in the end with the color scheme I gave the leader of the Brigands model. Choosing to do this whole apparatus in one color, it's alright, but I can do better. So I'm just going to get this main belt and these bandoliers. And even though it doesn't show on the model, the leader is supposed to have a kukri as well. And I am also going to get his beret. Okay. That's going to leave the armor and some weapons, and that's about it. back in a minute. Oh boy. Just when I thought I had the blur thing fixed. Okay, next, Sheild Brown 09161. This is going to go on a couple of things. First off, the leader model cigar. Just hanging out there. And then let's pick one with a knife. It's going to go on the hilts of the kukris as well. Okay. Apply to the rest and move on. Alright, next, Old Bronze 09197. Oh, great, this is weird. Alright, let's just... running low, but I'm finally going to be able to order more paint real soon here. So, this just needs to last another... This needs to last a little bit longer. So here, let's try to get my hand out of the way. Get the armor. And some of these commandos are much better armored than others, but again, for the simplicity of the game, they're all abstracted as having the same effective armor stat, so which definitely helps speed up gameplay. Keeping my brush again moist but not overly wet. Just want nice, solid coverage here. And I just realized I forgot to do the hooves. So, get the armor, then I can fix the hooves. Back in a minute. So having that focus problem, for crying out loud. Alright. Yellowed Bone again, 09034, or 43, excuse me, since I... No, 09143, oh boy. I am off my game today. Since I forgot to do the hooves when I did the tucks, we'll get those now. Then, got some steel and a rock or two. And that'll be base coats. Just a quick little nip around the hooves, and there are a couple of, I think these are called dew claws. And apply to the rest and then do some steel. Okay, uniform gray. Got a few of these guys standing on a rock. Well, that is not mixed thoroughly enough. Let's try that again. Better. Again, using just enough water to thin the paint. Just keep my brush moist but not really wet. Being real careful where the hoof comes down. Okay. Apply that to the other two that need it, and then I can do the weapons. Okay, last base coat, plate mail metal. And this is just going on weapons, both grenades and blades. I'll also put this on goggle lenses, or yeah, the lenses of goggles as well. Blade and grenade. And I'll just grab some of those goggles. A lot of these limbs and heads are very much mix and match, so you can do whatever you feel like in terms of the limbs for the most part. Okay, apply to the rest, and when it's dry, I can start shading. Alright, time to shade. I'm going to start with Blackened Steel, which is 09205. Thinning with 1 part water, 1 part paint. I'm just going over the appropriate base coat. Okay. Apply to the rest and move on. Still got that blur to try to figure out. Alright, next, aged Pewter 09196. So doing the shading is one of the quickest steps in terms of the actual painting, but has the longest drying time. It's going to be contingent on heat and humidity, and this bottle's clogged, so a little paper clip right down the nozzle there to clear it. Just thinning that out again. And just going over the armor. Okay. Apply to the rest, and I need to let it dry now, and then I can move on. Alright. Red Brick 09001. Now this is going to be applied to, I need a red brush for the job. Go ahead and get the beret. Need to get the hat and stuff first. Now go ahead and get the inside of the mouth now. And get these straps and belts. If you hear any music coming from the other room, it's an old video game I have playing while I'm playing while I wait on paint to dry, so nothing too much consequence there. Alright. Apply that to the rest and let it dry. Alright. 09163 Dark Elf Shadow. I'll have to be especially cautious around goggles. Just need to find the right brush for the job. After all, I don't want to get the lenses. Just want to get the strap. Kind of working on one section at a time. This step, I'm also keeping my brush very wet. Okay, a little more right there on that sleeve. Okay, apply the rest and move on. Next, Woodstain Brown, 09160. Oh, it's going to be tricky. And this is going to go on the officer, the leader model's cigar and the handles of the knives. That is it for that. So it's going to leave the mane, the teeth and hooves, and the flesh tone. I think the hooves are going to have to be the last, so moving on a bit. I guess some rocks too, but... Okay, I think that's everything they're wearing. So now, Dark Shadow, 09040, and do some of the manes and other larger tufts of hair. I guess some of that isn't completely dry, but it'll work. I accidentally got a little white on this, the ivory on this one, so that's why it's got that bright spot, but this will come out when I shade here. So okay, just a little on the ankles there and around the, well, I guess it's back the knee and the ankle, but I'm getting a little, okay, there we go, that's got it. Apply to the rest and move on when it is dry. Still having that focus problem. It's going so well for a while and now it's back again. Alright, Olive Skin Shadow 09220. Thinning out. Trying to avoid the thicker fur. Okay. Apply to the rest and move on. This is going to leave 2 shades left. Alright. Stained Ivory, 09142. Carefully pick out tusks and hooves. And that happened. Alright. Apply the rest, and I'll just leave a couple of rocks and start basing. Okay. Last shade, Stormy Grey 09088. This is just going on the 3 that have rocks on their bases. Okay. Apply the rest, let dry, and then I can start work on the front arc. Okay. Okay. A little bit of prep work before highlighting. Matte white. So, using the same amount of water as a base coat, just enough to thin the paint. I'm going to fill in the whites of the eyes. And then, switching to a flathead brush, I'm going to prep the front arc. I'm using a light green, so I need to prep it in white first. So being real careful. I close in around the hooves, and I am deliberately overextending now. We'll clean it up after highlighting is done. So apply all that to the rest, and I can move on. Okay, matte black. I'm going to get some eyes, but my system is really doing some weird stuff. So, yeah. So just real careful. Just dotting in some pupils. Apply to the rest, and then I can start highlighting. Alright, highlighting now. Olive Skin Highlight 09222. Ragged feathered brush, something like this. No paint, no water, straight paint only. Rub it out on a paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left. And dusty area to be affected. Going against any raised areas. Or any edges, I suppose is a better way of saying it. That'll help catch the paint and make those pop. Alright. Apply to the rest and move on. Alright. Well, it was in focus for a second there. This is whole setup is really fighting me lately. Yellow bone, or no, creamy ivory 09144. I'm going to highlight tusks and hooves. Looked up, so paperclip hub. I'm using a smaller one. Okay, apply to the rest and move on. Okay, Dark Elf highlight 09165. Not too bad at all. Alright, maybe a little more there. Apply to the rest and move on. Oh boy. Problems abound again. Good grief. Okay. Vampire red. Doing some tongues and getting the red on the leader here. And of course getting a lot of scam phone calls today. Which I can only amount to since the quote U.S. stimulus is starting to get deposited into people's accounts. There's no shortage of scumbags wanting to steal other people's stimulus. Okay. Apply to the rest and move on. Just about done with this. Where's my mouse? Alright, next. Dark highlights 09042. Need to find the right brush for the job. Okay, apply to the rest, and that's just going to leave, I think, just the bronze and the steel now. Now, a little bit of, we're almost there. Okay, next. Driftwood brown 09162. don't need much of this. Just a bit on the leader's cigar, and then handles on the blades. Alright. Apply the rest and move on. Okay. Alright. Where I put it. True Silver 09207. I'm adjusting my lighting again. We'll see if this works a little better. Looks okay so far, but then again, the other adjustment looked okay at first too, so seems to be helping with the focus and blur a little bit, but we'll just have to see what the result looks like. This is one of those things where I get exactly one chance to do it. So grenades and blades on the kukris. Okay. Apply to the rest, and that should just leave the bronze and the stone, I think. Right, next. Tarnished brass 09198. Belt buckles and mostly the armor. Let's give it a nice burnishing there. Again, going against the hard edges for best effect. Okay, apply to the rest. Now I just have a few rocks to do and I can get to the base. I just thought I had the blur thing fixed. Last highlight, Misty Grey 09090. I can get this to focus. Changing the lighting has helped a bit, but there's still got to be more I can do to help with that. It was really bad at first when I first started these videos. Then I got it better, and now I made it worse. Now I'm starting to make it better again. It's still one of my biggest issues here. Just highlighting the rock. Apply the other three that have it, and I can continue on the basing. Okay, olive green 09035. Looks like at some point I wound up using pale olive on a couple of models, but this is on the majority of them, so I'm not going to bother repainting models I've already painted just for the sake of amending one thing. So this was dark enough I wouldn't have actually needed the white, but initially I thought I was using a much lighter color. It's okay. So I'm just going to go over the arc here, apply to the rest, and once that dries, I'm going to scale that arc back and make it legal. Alright, now I can tidy up the front arc. It's a very snowy day today. Cold weather always knocks me out. Matte black. Need a fair bit of this. So the first step on this is to center it on this self-healing cutting mat that has the base sizes marked on it. And just do a couple of quick lines. And then extend those lines all the way to the edge. Because War Machine Hordes relies on a front arc for making attacks and determining if you're stabbing someone in the back. Okay, do that to the rest and move on in a second. Okay, one little detail I almost forgot to do. Rainy Gray 09038. I'm just going to do this and put a few ashes at the end of the cigar here. Make it appear burning. Now switching to a flathead brush and using the same matte black from earlier. Just going to backfill the base. Being very careful where the hooves come close to the edge or even pass it. That takes care of the front arc. Do that to the rest, and once it's dry, I can add some flock. Okay, time to finish the basing. So first, I'm going to take a little matte white, not a lot. Oh boy, if I can get any of this out of here. And I'm going to take the leader model and just, excuse me, hiccups, and just put an L on the back of his base to make it perfectly clear, because your leader model does matter. And while most sculpts are distinct enough, like this one is, not all are, so I just do this for consistency across the board. I'm going to set him aside and do him last. Now, mixture of white glue and water. I'm using a cap to an old bottle of Gatorade as a... These are really handy for mixing. They've got sort of a rubbery coating on the inside that makes it easy to pull out the old dried glue. So, you'd be amazed what you can scavenge for this hobby, and things you just normally throw away. Being generous on the white glue and water. Taking a brush I've more or less delegated exclusively to this task, keeping it nice and wet, and just mixing it up thoroughly. That'll work. Get my flock out. Oh boy, I'm running out of room here. And I am just going to carefully paint the interior of the base going around the feet, or hooves in this case. The Farrow are ungulates. I think I'm using the right term. I'm a little scrambled right now. I'm tired, I'm angry. Work stuff related with the day job. Okay. Give it a dip in the flock. Tap off the excess, and then I'm going to take a second brush that's dry and just push the flock away from areas I don't want it going down towards the base. And this is going to need 20 to 30 minutes to set before I can seal it. Maybe more. It's contingent on heat and humidity, so back in a bit. Okay, the last step I can do on camera. Taking Scenic Cement. This is a sprayer brush-on adhesive put out by Woodland Scenics. Glass eyedropper, because this will bond to plastic quickly. And carefully drip it onto the flock. This will seal it and keep it on the base and not in your box. Apply to the rest. Then once it's all dry, I just need to varnish it, which I can't do on camera. So that's that. The Farrow Commandos from the Minions faction of Hordes. Oh boy, my camera's really fighting me. So I'm going to take a little break and do some stuff I'm not going to be recording. Then I will be back, maybe a week, week and a half, I'm guessing, with some Monster Apocalypse, most likely. So until then, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.